Jedi Knights were often considered to be near unstoppable, especially if you were a non-Force sensitive. We have seen countless stormtroopers and bounty hunters desperately shooting their blasters at their Force-sensitive foes before either being cut in half or hit by their own deflected blaster bolt. However, defeating these superpowered sorcerers was not impossible. Today, we'll be looking at what I believe to be the most effective ways of combating Force sensitives, and exploring what equipment I'd recommend bringing along with you if you are thinking of getting into the rather lucrative business of Jedi hunting. As you will see by the end of my video, with the right know-how and equipment, it was actually pretty easy to defeat a Force sensitive. For this scenario, we'll be using both Legends and canon content, and we'll also suppose that we've got unlimited credits, and access to any materials that may be hard to come across. So the two main advantages Force sensitives had against their opponents was of course their lightsabers and the use of the Force. First of all, we've got to find a way to counter their lightsaber, where you'll quickly end up in two pieces. To combat a lightsaber, we will have to get ourselves some kind of armour, and we actually have a range of different lightsaber resistant materials to choose from. The cheapest of these will likely be beskar, also known as mandalorian iron in Legends. However, this was nowhere near the most effective kind of armour in the galaxy. We've already explored the various different kinds of lightsaber resistant materials in this video, so I won't go into too much depth here. The Imperial experimental superweapon known as the Sun Crusher was made out of a near indestructible material known as quantum crystalline armour, or layered molecule armour. Quantum armour, as it was informally known, was so strong that the Sun Crusher even took a hit from the Death Star prototype super laser and incurred little damage. As we've explored a few times on my Shorts channel, the Death Star super laser was basically a giant lightsaber, utilising the energy amplification properties of kyber crystals to produce an incredibly powerful beam of energy. So while no one has ever tested a lightsaber against quantum armour, I'm pretty sure if it can survive the Death Star, it can survive a lightsaber. But why stop there? If we wanted to be really clever, we'd want to stop the Jedi or Sith from using their lightsaber at all. To do this, we are going to line our quantum crystalline armour with another lightsaber resistant material, pure cortosis. While it is nowhere near as strong as quantum armour, it has the ability to short out a lightsaber blade for minutes at a time. We've seen cortosis used several times in swords and shields, and it was so effective it almost led to the downfall of Darth Vader. I'd also recommend some kind of personal energy shield. The more powerful, the better. Some energy shields, such as the one used by the Scorpion Annihilator droid, could completely stop blaster fire and lightsaber strikes. However, these were power intensive and were quite big. A more portable energy shield is likely more useful and still provides you with a great deal of defense from lightsabers. These can either come in the form of a more intense, smaller shield as used by the Mandalorians, or a less powerful, larger shield as used by the droidecar. If stealth is more your thing, then I'd recommend a stealth field generator. These emitted a sound dampening field while bending light around the wearer. These were not perfect and were prone to malfunction. If you want to take advantage of stealth devices, it is probably best to install a cloaking device into your ship and ambush the Jedi in their starfighter. Larger stealth generators used in ships were much more reliable and effective. In fact, the Stygium lightsaber crystal used to make an experimental cloaking device used in both Maul's and Starkiller's ships was banned by the Republic as it was just too effective. These prevented you from being seen even by advanced sensors, certainly giving you an advantage during a space dogfight with any Force user. But what about offensive weaponry? As the infamous Jedi killer droid HK-47 points out, people who use blasters to combat Jedi are idiots. If you are serious about causing some damage, you are going to have to bring out the big boys. HK-47 recommends grenades, sonic screamers, cluster rockets, plasma charges, and mines. He also believes that toxic gas that can melt the skin is an effective means of attack, especially against Force users without armour. If possible, an element of surprise was preferable, due to their precognitive abilities, with a long-range weapon such as a sniper being quite useful. HK-47 quite possibly had the highest Jedi kill count of any non-Force sensitive, so his words of wisdom are certainly worth listening to. Jedi had no means of deflecting or defending against explosives, so these are likely your best bet. However, other weapons, such as the Geonosian sonic cannon or blaster, could not be deflected by a lightsaber. As we discussed in yesterday's video, these were one of the primary ways that Dooku was able to kill 86% of the Jedi present during the Battle of Geonosis. These are also relatively long range, so you will be able to keep the Force wielder at a safe distance. If you have to go for a blaster, go for something that will pack a punch. Blasters with a high rate of fire are a safe bet, especially if you are wearing heavy duty blaster or lightsaber resistant armour that keeps you safe from deflected blaster bolts. Alternatively, get yourself a ship with heavy duty cannons. Most Force users will be unable to deflect such powerful blaster shots. Even T-47 airspeeders have more than enough firepower to overcome a Jedi's lightsaber, while also giving you enough maneuverability to get away from them fairly quickly if things turn sour. Of course, I realise that a ship may not always be ideal, and I'll be informing you about the best ship modifications in more detail in future videos. Explosives may also not always be useful in every situation. Sometimes you have to get up close and personal with your enemy. If you have to fight the Force sensitive at a medium distance, a slug thrower should be used. Unlike blaster bolts, a Jedi could not deflect bullets back at you. A slug thrower, such as a shotgun or one with a high rate of fire, is likely the best choice. If they do manage to hit the bullet with their lightsaber, they're going to be hit in the face by a molten ball of metal travelling at 1,000 miles an hour. Flamethrowers are also a great option for medium range combat, as the Jedi will be unable to block it using their lightsaber. Some flamethrowers have a terrifyingly long range, but exercise their use with caution, as a stray blaster bolt can cause the fuel backpack to violently explode. A useful piece of equipment to stop the Jedi getting near you would be a jetpack or jet boots, although use these sparingly as they do have a tendency to malfunction. Just in case the Jedi or Sith does manage to get close to you, I'd recommend using a cortosis sword. Just like your armour, this will short out their lightsaber and leave them extremely vulnerable to attack. I'd also recommend getting some pure cortosis bullets, which were used by Cad Bane. Just like the cortosis sword, these bullets would short out a lightsaber. However, these could also short out a lightsaber from a long range, making them incredibly useful. The lightsaber resistant bullet itself would continue on its trajectory, likely putting an end to the Force user's career. These were prohibitively expensive, and even Cad Bane struggled to find enough credits to make them worthwhile. They also had the tendency to wreck the inside of a slug thrower quite quickly, so I'd recommend using them sparingly. An alternative would be the tractor rifle. Similar to the larger tractor beam on ships, this could be used to pull a Force user's lightsaber out of their hand. Although very powerful Sith such as Vader was strong enough with the Force to overpower its pulling force. As HK-47 suggested, your best bet is to surprise your opponent. This will allow you to better utilise your plethora of advanced weaponry. If you can surprise them while being at a safe distance, that's even better. Force sensitives could sense the presence of other living beings, but weren't so good at detecting automatic traps. Ray shields, magnetic traps, or explosive mines are all good options if you have the time to set them up beforehand. Another good option that's pretty obvious is to bring some backup. In a one-on-one fight, you are vulnerable. However, against multiple heavily armed opponents, Force users often struggled. If you don't want to split a potential ward with other bounty hunters, consider getting yourself a few droids. These could be as simple as the techno service droid used by Cad Bane. These could be used to set up distractions, set traps, or help you make a quick getaway if the situation worsens. Alternatively, you could purchase a few battle droids that were known for their skill in killing Jedi. These include Magna Guard droids, B3 super battle droids, and IG-110 lightsaber droids. I'll be making a video on all the different Jedi killing droids very soon, so make sure to subscribe with the notification bell if you haven't already. Force users also had a hard time sensing droids' presence in the Force. This could be taken advantage of by using any of the highly intelligent assassin droids such as an HK-47 or IG-88. However, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using these droids as they had a tendency to gain sentience and overthrow their meatbag masters. Go for something a little less sophisticated, such as the IG-86 Sentinel droid if you want to mitigate this risk. If for whatever reason droids aren't your thing, there's a whole host of different biological pets you can use to defeat your force-sensitive foes. Vornskir was certainly a great option. If you train them from birth, they could be reliable companions. However, they had a special love for force-sensitive flesh. Their sharp teeth, poisonous tail, and muscular body would give any Jedi a hard time in combat. If you can get your hands on some Voxin, that would be even better. Voxin were essentially genetically engineered Vornskir, used by the Yuuzhan Vong to hunt down Jedi. These were equipped with sonic blasts, flesh-melting acid, disease-coated claws, and a poisonous barbed tail. They were also quite easy to train, and could be taught how to avoid the Jedi's crafty tricks to make them even more effective. However, even with all your weapons, indestructible armour, and entourage of droids or deadly pets, the Jedi and Sith still have a massive advantage: the Force itself. As we've discussed a few times before, one of the major problems non-Force sensitives had was their lack of Force shield. While Jedi and Sith could prevent Force users from using Force-based attacks against them, non-Force sensitives such as General Grievous had to use an overwhelming flurry of attacks to prevent his opponents from attacking them using the Force. A powerful enough Force push could easily pulverize your insides or lead to severe concussion. If you were going up against a Sith, they could use the Force to break your neck, restrict your airways, or even make your heart explode. However, there is a way of protecting yourself against the Force. In fact, this was used by Grand Admiral Thrawn on multiple occasions. Small lizard-like creatures known as the Yslara Miri could actually block the Force. Just one of these creatures could create a 10-meter bubble that would prevent the Sith or Jedi from exerting any influence over the Force. If many of these strange creatures were present, the bubble could be increased to over a few kilometers. By placing them on a nutrient frame, Thrawn was able to protect his men from Force-based attacks, including Force lightning. So while it may be a bit of a hassle carrying one of these things around, we'd highly recommend getting one of these as a pet. If the Force sensitive is outside the bubble, you are still vulnerable to them using the Force to throw things at you with high speed. However, with the use of multiple Yslara Miri, as well as through protection from your energy shield and armour, these issues can be overcome. Remember, when a Jedi is distracted and using the Force, that's the time to strike. It takes an awful lot of concentration to lift up heavy objects during battle. If you strike them when they're still vulnerable, you have a high chance of defeating your Force-wielding opponent. So what do you guys think of my recommendations? Have I left out any weapon or gadget that you think would be effective against a Force user? Let me know down below. If you want to learn about all the different lightsaber resistant materials that we didn't have time to discuss today, then make sure to check out this video.